I think what this bill means is with the savings that will come as a result of this to employers, they're going to be able to, if they're in a position now, say, look, we just saved money, we can go and start hiring more people. That's short term. The savings to the state overall, which workers are part of the state, is a reduction of the interest payment that we would have to be paying. We're going to pay off the federal government all up front. This is like refinancing your mortgage. If your mortgage was at 5%, we're getting it down to, what's the actual number?
2.7, we think.
2.7%. And it's at a fixed rate. The other one was at a variable rate. So it could come down a little bit, it could have gone up. And who knows with the economy what it would have done. So that helps everybody across the board. Okay?
There were concerns about the eligibility changes during legislative debate. Can you just address the tax rate?
Well, I think the legislative debate really did address it. I'm not going to personally get into that. You had to make some changes as to eligibility in order to make this something that you could get both sides to the table. Remember, this is, you know, labor and industry coming together and working out a solution to a problem that was affecting the entire state and affecting each one of them. Okay.
You said that the savings will be really helpful.
I'm not familiar with you.
Chris Comstock, Capital One.
Chris, okay.
You said the savings would be really helpful given the way budget negotiations are going right
I
now.
took that in a gross picture.
I understand.
Okay.
But
If we're not writing checks to the federal government.
how are budget negotiations going, seeing that the House and Senate seem to keep putting their...
John, you want to give him the answer for me?
I'm not listening.
Well, but I gave you the answer. You know, we put a number on the table today. They're going to come back and talk to us tomorrow about what they think is a number.
Is that number lower than their number?
Yes.
How much?
We're not going to get into the details of that right now. But, you know, we are in a position, I believe, with the additional revenues come in since February the 8th and seeing things improve a little bit, that I look forward that we'll be able to put some money back into some categories that people are upset about. I understand why they're upset. At the same time, we're not in a position, in my mind, to go to that top level that the Senate came out with, what, 6 weeks ago?
On the cracker, the message from your administration early on seemed to be that Shell hadn't agreed to build anything, but they were going to talk to Pennsylvania and not Ohio and West Virginia. But in recent days, members of your administration have been saying concerns about how the details have leaked has hurt Ohio's position, Pennsylvania's position compared to the other states. So can you just clarify what Pennsylvania's position is? Can Ohio and West Virginia still bid on this, or is this just Pennsylvania and Shell right now?
Oh, I can tell you from what I hear, and you know, it's I can't even attribute it to anybody because it's just passed along second, third hand, that Ohio is still continuing to try and lure that away, as is West Virginia. And remember, when we announced this, we announced it as the very first step, first inning of a 9-inning game. There are a lot of hurdles that we have to get through. And we're slowly progressing through that. Okay?
Governor, would you characterize it as a bidding war going on still?
Well, hopefully it's not a bidding war. I think we have the best site. We have the best location. The program that we have, the KOZ, the Marcellus legislation, as you know, we want this credit, the tax credit, which, just by the way, I mean, I've done this in a couple other conversations with people. I know I was telling Pete the other day, you know, this is 2017 forward. It has no impact on today's budget, none. It will have long-term impact if we get these jobs here to southwestern Pennsylvania and all Pennsylvania, because it can have an impact clear across the state. And in fact, that tax credit only applies for the gas in Pennsylvania and the jobs in Pennsylvania. Shell is changing the dynamic of not taking all this gas to the south coast, to the Gulf Coast, and just turning it into ethane there and putting it in petrochemical plants there. They are looking to build an industry here in southwestern Pennsylvania. So this benefits all of Pennsylvania. Go back to what we're saying about unemployment compensation. If we get thousands and thousands, literally tens of thousands of new jobs, that's going to reduce our unemployment compensation because we're reducing our unemployment.
But you still want to see this tax credit approved by the legislature this month?
I would like to see it approved this month, yes,
Is it
yes.
crucial if it's-
Well, I can't, I'm not going to get into that. I don't, there's certain things I can't go into because of the confidentiality agreement, but I believe it is important that we show that we're moving forward with this to give them the opportunity to be able to lure or bring the petrochemical industry to Pennsylvania, which would be the user. This is downstream use primarily. Right now, that petrochemical industry doesn't exist here. For them to begin to use the credit in 2017, and I keep going back, this is like a performance-based credit. If they're not using it, they don't get, if they're not using the gas, they don't get to use the tax credit. In order to use that gas in the plastic industry has to start building here almost simultaneously with the Shell cracker facility, because there has to be somewhere to offtake that. If they're not up and running and Shell has to send gas until that's up and running to the Gulf Coast, they don't get the credit because it's not being produced in Pennsylvania. So this is a Pennsylvania jobs tax credit.
Sounds like the details of this are pretty out there. Any idea when we're going to see this in bill form, when this is going to be introduced?
I think it's already. I think. Don't hold me to that right now without having my legislative person here. But I believe it's in bill form. I think there's a bill for the House and a bill for the Senate. I think, Andrew, is it in bill form yet?
To be introduced this week.
This week. Vogel, right, in the Senate, and Christiana in the House.
Governor, are you planning any kind of public relations?
Oh, absolutely. You can talk to Kevin after today.
Public relations campaign, across the state.
Absolutely.
Outside of, these.
Absolutely.
buildings.
I've been on radio a lot lately about this, too.
So you think it's necessary that the public?
Well, I think they need to understand it. Yeah, they
Do you
do
think the
need.
public is on board with it?
I think the public's on board, especially the public of southwestern Pennsylvania, is heavily on board with creating tens of thousands of jobs in Pennsylvania. One of the complaints that you hear about this country and about this state is manufacturing has left Pennsylvania and has left the United States. It's gone offshore. This changes that. It brings it to Pennsylvania, keeps it onshore, and so we should be encouraging it. We've lost a great deal of our industrial base. I think the people want to know that we have the potential for an entirely new industrial base that will grow Pennsylvania, not just for those of us who are here today. I keep going back to my little grandson. Valerie's seen the picture of my little grandson. What's he going to have? What are your grandkids going to have in 30 years from now? Okay, this is going to be here for a long period of time.
Governor, any comment on Representative Kemp's proposal to end?
Representative who's?
Kemp's proposals to end public employee pensions for those already in the system? You heard of that?
No, I have not heard that. That's new to me.
And then
In the back.
Melissa Daniels, PA Independent. What's your response to the new Quinnipiac poll numbers today that show you have the lowest approval rating within your tenure so far?
The polls now. I don't look at the polls. If I was looking at the polls, I wouldn't be doing some of the things I'm doing, would I?
Governor, yesterday was the first day of the Sandusky trial. There was some horrific statements made by witness number 4, and I know that you don't know what's true from a witness until the end of the jury, but statements such as it was common for him as a 13-year-old to shower in the coach's shower room with multiple coaches, including the current head coach of the team. Do you have any comments about
No,
that?
I don't. I believe I'm partially under the gag order because the case came out, started the investigation under me, so I think it's important that I abide by that gag order right now.
Governor, on the budget, it looks like the IFO put out a revised estimate today. They revised numbers down about $300 million to $27.5 billion for collections this year. Any comment on those numbers being lower than what they were?
Well, that's. I did not have those numbers. I think at 9:30 today or 10 o'clock today when we were meeting with the legislature. So it might reinforce me. I don't know. We'll see.
Governor, way back when the first privatization original bill came out, you called it a good first step. The latest developments, are they continue to be steps in the right direction on the liquor store privatization?
Well, let's go back. Do I support privatization? Absolutely. Do I want to get a bill moving? Absolutely. Because once it passes the House, it has to go to the Senate. People there are going to have their input. Whatever amendments are changed, whatever changes to it is there, it'll come back to the House. You all know the legislative route. So this is a good first step. Let's get this first step done.
heard you speak several times in the last few months about your interest in developing the natural gas fueled car market. There's about $20 million from the impact fee that's going to that. Are there any other proposals from your administration, or is that?
Well, no, we may have missed this. We signed on with first 7 other states, and now it's up to 13 states, urging Detroit to start building light-duty trucks and vehicles, but primarily light-duty trucks. This was last year sometime. I think we did that. That would use natural gas, and we would start converting our fleet over, because as you know, we continually buy new vehicles as the other ones age out. And I think makes a great deal of sense to do that. You know, when we're talking about the development of the natural gas, there are so many different aspects to it. First off, cheaper energy to electricity. So that means cheaper electricity, cheaper heat in the homes, or it should be. On the plastics industry side, that's just one industry that can do it. But then there is also the development of other demand, and the more we create demand for the natural gas, hopefully we'll see that cost of dry natural gas go up some, so that they continue to drill, because as you know, they've slowed down the drilling in the very dry natural gas areas. One of the ways you do that is if we start converting the fleets. Natural gas is much cleaner than regular gasoline. So it can't all happen at one time. It happens in little bits and pieces. There are people looking to Detroit, and I think Detroit now, it's about 2 months ago, Wall Street Journal story that Chrysler was going to start building light-duty trucks with natural gas, hybrid natural gas gasoline tanks, a small gasoline tank. GM the very next day said they're going to do the same thing. I'm waiting for Ford to do the same thing, because it gives us cleaner air. But the other thing it gives us is energy independence from the Mideast. And I think that's extremely important. In addition to our gas play, there are gas plays around the country. This country, we can be, if we start that conversion, we can be energy independent of the Mideast. And I think that's a good thing to be.
Prison reform or sentencing reform bill could pass the House later today. Are you confident that'll be on your desk by the end of the month?
Well, I've indicated to the legislature I'd certainly like to see it. This is part of the corrections reform and part of the justice reinvestment. The whole package. They know where I am on it. When we met yesterday, this is some legislation I'd certainly like to see on our desk. It'd be kind of unusual, wouldn't it be, for me to be the one that gets corrections reform? Having been the Attorney General, but I think it's absolutely necessary.
Going to the city of Harrisburg now, the receiver, Mr. Lynch, said he is going to sue the city council by the end of the week if they don't take the plan into place that you have. You ran on raising their taxes, but for Harrisburg city residents, there's a 2% plus increase in taxes that will happen. What do you want to say to the residents? Because they're going to be footing that bill as well as possibly a school tax increase of 2.5%.
Well, first off, let me, Valerie, just correct you a little bit. He's not suing them. He's going to the court to ask the court to order them to do something. You know, we've been trying to fix this financial problem, and the city council has been doing nothing. They've been holding back. They've hired a lawyer. I don't know where they're getting the money to pay for the lawyer at this point in time. And they're not addressing the issues that are before them. They need to address the issues before them. The fact that I guess the plan has, and I've not looked at the plan in recent days, has a proposal that they're going to have to increase their taxes is unfortunate. But this whole situation, the decisions that were made in the past, are unfortunate. But we got to deal with the present. And unfortunately, the city, and frankly, we have other cities that are in trouble. You know, with the downturn. I'm going to go back to this. With the downturn of the economy, number one. Number two, with the issue of the pensions. And if Ron's here, you saw me lean over to Ron Miller and say, we got, after Senator Gortner talked about getting this UC done, I said, we got to get pension reform done. Because if we don't, the battle that we're fighting on the budget, the battle that the cities and the school districts are fighting, because all the money that the school districts, not all, the vast majority of the money that the school districts say they need is to go to the teachers, to the pensions. That's where it's going. because of the way everything happened in the past. And you can assess blame however you want. I can't deal with that. I got to deal with the present and the future.
How frustrating is it for you to watch this going on?
Extremely frustrating. I mean, you know, we're trying to deal with it and move us forward. You know, assessing blame, pointing fingers, I give that to you guys. Our job is to move forward. Okay? Thank you all.